today. My name is Sarita Wilkins. I'm one of the speakers today. As I mentioned, our moderator is having some technical difficulties. So first, I want to start us out with some housekeeping items. This meeting is being recorded and all attendees are going to get a copy of the slides and the recording. We'll also send you links to the resources presented here via email, so keep an eye out for that. I do usually send a link to the song that we play at the beginning of our webinars, so for those of you who are asking in the chat, you'll be sure to get a link to that as well. We're going to have time at the end for questions, so if you think of any, please add them to the chat or by using the Q&A feature. So I'm going to give a brief overview of NRC-RIM before giving you an overview on Afghan newcomers and the challenges that exist in providing mental health support. We're going to then demonstrate some culturally relevant tools for service providers and give you an example of programming out of Sacramento. So as I mentioned, we'll have time at the end for Q&A with our speakers. So first, my name is Sarita. I'm the communications strategist for the National Resource Center for Refugees, Immigrants, and Migrants, or NRC-RIM, where I lead the health education portfolio. Rabia is a program officer at the International Rescue Committee, where she specializes in evidence-based practice. Beth is the Senior Director of Safety, Health, and Education Technical Unit at the International Rescue Committee. Malalai is a Senior Community Wellness Specialist at the IRC office in Sacramento, and she's joined by her colleague Yasi, who is a Community Wellness Specialist also at IRC Sacramento. So as I mentioned, I'm going to start out with a brief overview of my organization and what we do. The National Resource Center for Refugees, Immigrants, and Migrants, or NRC-RIM, is funded by the CDC and housed at the University of Minnesota. And so we were initially established as part of the nation's COVID-19 response, but we now support health departments and community organizations working with refugee, immigrant, and migrant communities that have been disproportionately impacted of health inequities of all kinds, not just COVID-19. We do that by strengthening partnerships between health departments and communities and supporting organizations that work directly with refugees, immigrants, and migrants with the ultimate goal of improving health equity. We support organizations by collecting and disseminating best practices, health communications and health education, and by offering online training such as this. We also offer technical assistance and a few other services. Because we work with health departments and community-based organizations, we are one step removed from the community. So we rely on our core partners to keep us informed of the challenges and successes of both workers and the communities they serve. Now, we've wrapped up our work with COVID-19 so we can focus almost exclusively on the public health needs of Afghan newcomers. And now I'll turn it over to Rabia.
Yeah, thank you, Sarita. I hope I can paint a picture of the historical events that have had implication on just general health and mental health of Afghans in the next couple minutes that I have. I'll start talking about the geographical importance of Afghanistan. It's located in the fertile land of Harirot Valley, and it's also between South Asia, Central Asia, and it also connects to the Middle East. And this geographical positioning gives it importance in terms of other countries having, interest in terms of their ambitions for this country, which has led in the past decades and centuries, has led to many countries trying to invade Afghanistan. As President Joe Biden puts it, the graveyard of empires. And so most of these countries, they seek to further their own colonial, trade, or geopolitical ambition. And so because of these invasions, Afghanistan is inherently a very rich country in terms of culture, but that has been richer because of these invasions and migration of other cultures into the country. Next slide. So talking of recent conflicts, as I said, there have been multiple invasions and attempts, and that has led to many Afghan people experiencing war and conflict. And just in the last 2 centuries, there have been multiple wars and insurgencies and civil conflicts. By the year 1992, just alone by that year, there have been 6.5, more than 1.5 million deaths due to wars and conflicts. And in the 21st century, in the last 2 decades, more than 125,000 Afghans have been killed in U.S. war in Afghanistan. And again, these numbers don't project the actual numbers because these are just deaths that have been reported, but high. And again, because of wars and conflicts, Afghanistan is heavily mined. Thousands of people in Afghanistan lose their lives due to landmines in Afghanistan. And in addition to that, Afghanistan is also prone to natural disasters and calamities like floods and earthquakes and droughts that kind of further the crisis in the country. And so as a result of these invasions, wars, and civil conflicts and insurgencies, as well as the natural disasters and calamities, more than 6 million people, Afghan people, have been displaced outside the country, and more than 3.5 million Afghans are internally displaced. Next slide. Can you move to the next slide, Sarita? Yeah, thank you. And so in the year 2019, the United States introduced the special immigration visa program, which would allow Afghans to resettle in the U.S., mainly Afghans who worked with the U.S. troops. The U.S. troops and the U.S. government, because their nature of work posed a danger to their security and lives. This would allow them to resettle in the U.S. with their families, their spouses, and their children. And mainly these were people who worked with the U.S. in different capacities, interpreters, people who worked in the embassies, different sectors.
I'm so sorry to interrupt, but there's people are saying they are having trouble hearing you. If you could move a little closer to your microphone, I think that would help.
Okay, is this better?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, now you'll see my face all over your screen, but hopefully you can hear me. And I'll try to speak louder. So we were talking about the special immigration visa that has allowed Afghans to resettle in the U.S. Post the year 2009, especially those who work with the U.S. troops, and that has posed danger to their security and lives in Afghanistan. And so they can move to the U.S. via this program with their spouses and their children. And this pathway also leads to citizenship. And so they're eligible to apply for citizenship at the end of this program. And so in the last couple of years, more than 40,000 Afghans have been resettled in the U.S. Through the ACE-IV project. And then another 12,000 visas are to be issued in this fiscal year, 2024. And then there are thousands of other Afghans who are eligible for ACE-IV that are still in the pipeline and being processed. And like I said, this allows them a pathway to citizenship in the U.S. When they move to the United States. Can you move to the next slide? Okay. And so, as we all witnessed, the events that took place in the unfortunate events that took place in the year 2021, with the withdrawal, or I would say unplanned, poorly planned, and a very swift withdrawal of the U.S. And allies of Afghanistan, which led to the capital falling into the hands of Taliban. And that led to 100,000 Afghans being evacuated the country very quickly overnight. And they were based in different military bases around the world, and that included that 80,000 of them were evacuated to the United States and kind of situated in different military bases in the U.S. Under the Operation Allies Welcome project. And then these people stayed in these military bases anywhere between a couple weeks to even 6 months until they were processed by the U.S. government and then eventually resettled in different U.S. communities. However, the people that were evacuated in August of 2021, they were not given refugee status. They were given humanitarian parole status, which allows them to stay in the U.S. for 2 years. And I believe that has been increased to 4 years now. But that does not provide them a pathway to legal permanency or citizenship, which is kind of leaves them in a limbo and awaiting an uncertain future. In addition to these pathways, there's also Afghans who are arriving through the U.S. Resettlement programs. And that program does kind of lead to citizenship. And over 6,500 Afghans have arrived as refugees through that project in the U.S. just in the year 2023. Next slide. Yeah. So because the situation is so difficult in Afghanistan, so dire, many people who are still in danger back home are still trying to find ways to seek safety, including taking really long and very dangerous journey to illegal and risky pathways to kind of arrive to the U.S. southern border in hopes of crossing into the U.S. and seeking asylum. And asylum is a very long, daunting legal process that doesn't guarantee asylum being granted at the end of it. It also takes a significant amount of time and waiting before one is eligible to petition the U.S. government for a work authorization and be able to work in the U.S. And then while they're asylum applicants and before their asylum is granted, they are not eligible for any benefits, state or federal. Next slide. And so all of these wars and conflicts and immigration, forced displacement has had many mental health tolls on the health of Afghans who are in Afghanistan, but also those who have been resettled in different communities in the U.S. And they have posed many general health, but specifically mental health challenges. And so now I will turn it over to Beth to talk to you about those challenges. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Rabia. How's my sound? Can everybody hear me?
We can hear you just fine, Beth.
Yes, we can.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And thank you so much, Rabia, for setting the context, because context really matters. We are people who are impacted by our environment and what happens to us, and we impact our environment as well. If you can go to the next slide, Sarita. So it is important to know that many people who have been forcibly displaced from Afghanistan to the United States have a much higher incident of mental health issues. This is not because something is wrong with them. This is because things have happened to them and continue to happen to them. So the most common contributors to having a mental health concern are, one, traumatic experiences. And as we have heard from Rabia, many Afghans have experienced years of conflict and crisis going back multiple generations. Life stressors as well. And we know that coming to a new country is unbelievably hard. People are starting in the US in very extreme poverty. They also must learn a new language. They have to get a job. They have to adapt to a new culture. They're having to figure out their identity in a new place. They also may face marginalization, discrimination, and bias all of these things can contribute to a sense of pressure, toxic stress, and a decreased sense of belonging and inclusion in the communities in which they live in. We know that one of the biggest protective factors for everybody for their mental health is a sense of community and social supports. And many Afghans are coming to the US without their support system, including close family members. Many relationships have been fractured by forced displacement. In addition to that, lack of social support, many Afghans have family members that are still in peril and facing significant danger, and that is just a constant stress. Loss. People who have been forcibly displaced have often lost their homes, they've lost their jobs, their connections, sometimes their standing in their community, their educational degree may not be of use in the US. The skills that they have learned over time may not be in the US, so there's a tremendous sense of loss. There's uncertainty about what happens next, particularly with humanitarian parolees. I was a mental health clinician for many, many years, and I can tell you the number of times that people's suddenly improved in their mental health after they got legal permanent residence or citizenship was massive. But the Afghans who are coming under humanitarian parole have very significant uncertainty about their status and if they'll be allowed to stay in the US. And this is heightened, particularly this election season. They also may not know if they'll ever see their family again. So there's some people call it the violence of uncertainty, but that uncertainty is very, very real. And then for everybody, mental health concerns to a small degree can be impacted by genetics. There's a small subset of people who have a genetic predisposition to something like depression, and then temperament. People are born with different temperaments, and their level of resilience or their ability to reframe things or kind of roll with the punches is often very much impacted by temperament as well. We can go to the next slide. So the three most common mental health concerns that we see in forcibly displaced people from Afghanistan, but frankly in all forcibly displaced populations, is depression, anxiety, and traumatic stress, particularly post-traumatic stress disorder. You'll notice that I didn't put post in here, post-traumatic stress disorder, because for many people, the trauma is not over. The trauma is continuing as events unfold back home, as the stress and trauma of displacement continue here. So I'm always a little reluctant to say post-traumatic stress disorder. But these common mental health concerns are not because something is wrong with people, but because they are having very normal reactions to very abnormal things. We can go to the next slide. Now, despite the fact that many people from Afghanistan have a higher rate of mental health concerns, there's huge barriers to them receiving meaningful mental health services. There is language. It's very hard to get providers who speak Dari and Pashto, but even to get interpreters. And even if they can get interpreters, it's pretty difficult for someone to come to a mental health session and have a new interpreter every single time. It really kind of erodes that sense of trust and safety. Many people have barriers like transportation and childcare, or they have money barriers because they have a lack of Medicaid or insurance. There's also just not enough available mental health providers, period, but then even fewer who take Medicaid, and then even fewer who live in a community where they can provide good interpretation, and even fewer than that who also know how to work effectively across cultures or to work with the type of trauma that forcibly displaced people come with. Also, many people, when they first come to the United States, mental health counseling is not necessarily something that's a priority for them. They need to have shelter. They need to get their kids started in school. They need to pay the rent. And so mental health, even if they have concerns, may just not be a priority. In addition to that, people may have different beliefs around what causes their mental health concerns than the Western mental health system. The Western mental health system was set up by people who kind of look like me, people who are from the Western world, and so therefore, what we say will help is very much tied to what we say is our framework for what is causing things. And so if people are coming with beliefs around things like evil eye or jinn or other things, and we are prescribing talk therapy, these two things don't match. And so people may not find it very meaningful. And then in addition to that, there could be stigma. And the stigma often comes from people's understanding of what mental health services look like. And in Afghanistan, there's very, very few mental health services. And the mental health services that are there often tend to be mental health hospitals where people do not get very good and effective treatment. Rabia, is there anything that I might have missed here that you want to bring up, or anything that I might have gotten wrong?
No, I think yeah, everything you talked were on point and painted a really accurate picture of the mental health situation in Afghanistan.
Thanks. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. So what we have found, not just at NRC-RIM and at International Rescue Committee where I work, but generally in the world, the framework providing mental health services really needs to be expanded from individual focused therapy or nothing, right? We really need to accordion out how we think of mental health services. And it's always important, you'll notice that I put here mental health and psychosocial support, because it's critical to recognize that bi-directional and dynamic nature between the person and their environment. People impact their environment, but their environment impacts them. And so for these reasons, we really need to think and shift our thinking around mental health so that we have a range of supports for Afghans experiencing mental health concerns. Some of these are really investing in their safety and security, making sure that we have good resources or can connect people to resources so that they can meet their basic needs. That we also provide really strong family and community supports. If you'll remember, I said that social support is a huge protective and also healing factor. And so helping people connect to neighbors, to faith-based groups, to have community gatherings, to have time to be with their family, to do strengthening family interventions. These are also huge for helping people heal and stay resilient. And then having focus services. I think we often don't invest enough in focus services, and focus services are essentially trained services or trainings that can support even paraprofessionals to deliver an evidence-based or evidence-informed intervention. And so this allows people from the community to learn and deliver services in their own community around a particular issue, need, or concern. And then at the very top, and you'll see it's the very smallest amount, is those highly specialized services, which would be medication, medication management, individual therapy, diagnosis, and assessment. And so we know that the biggest number of people can be better and maintain mental health just by receiving safety and security supports. A smaller number may need safety and security plus family and community. A smaller number still focus services, and the smallest number for highly specialized. And it's really important that we can provide services along this entire range. And so with that, I will turn it back over to Sarita.
Thanks so much, Beth. That was a really great overview of the situation in Afghanistan and the mental health needs. I'm going to go over some resources that organizations can use to support Afghan newcomers. And I'm going to start with our health education collection. So this is a collection of health education materials that are available in English, Dari, and Pashto that supports good mental health and stress management practices among Afghan newcomers. We also have resources that support Afghan parents in helping their children and teens manage stress. And by focusing on stress management, the collection addresses Afghans' mental health needs in a culturally relevant way. So when I say collection, what I mean is that our health education materials take multiple formats. We have fact sheets and social media assets that are translated and customizable. We have audio PSAs and text message templates that can be sent via WhatsApp or other messaging apps that are popular with Afghan communities. And then we have video PSAs that we post to YouTube that organizations can then share or repost. And our process for creating these materials is deeply rooted in our community partnerships. I am not Afghan and I don't speak for Afghan people, so we rely on our partners to help us incorporate community perspectives and choose the topics and framing that are going to resonate best. We work closely with partners like the Afghan Health Initiative, the International Rescue Committee, and others to ensure that our health education efforts are as relevant as possible. So with this collection in particular, we took care to incorporate the perspectives of Afghan communities. The first thing we do is acknowledge the context of Afghans' displacement while highlighting those community strengths. We say they have great strength and bravery, but also that migration is inherently difficult and their feelings might be complicated. We encourage folks to talk to imams or mullahs if they need additional support and to continue traditions from back home as they settle into life in the US. Now, in talking with our partners, we're able to incorporate Afghan cultural traditions into some of our recommendations. For example, exercise has been shown to improve mental health, but rather than telling people to exercise, we suggest they do Atan dancing, which is the national dance of Afghanistan. Good bedtime routines promote better sleep, which helps with stress. So we suggested that people drink herbal tea instead of kawa or chai in the evenings. These are traditional teas that are common in Afghanistan, but they contain caffeine that can disrupt sleep. One recommendation for mental health and stress is to spend time with loved ones, and we learned that chess was a common pastime in Afghanistan, so we suggest doing that. And finally, we learned that kite flying was very popular in Afghanistan, but it's now forbidden by the Taliban. So for many Afghans, kite flying in the United States is not only a way to celebrate that tradition, but to also honor the people who remain in their home country. And kite flying can combine many of the recommendations for managing stress. It's exercise, routines, you could do breathing exercises, spending time with loved ones, and it really can evoke positive memories from back home. So we feature this practice prominently in our materials. As I mentioned, our materials are available in English, Dari, and Pashto. We have an extremely rigorous translation process that goes above and beyond industry standard. And after translation, we work with cultural validators from the community to confirm the language that we use. They make sure that our translations are not only accurate, but culturally relevant. And that cultural validation process extends to the design of our materials as well. The photos we use, the way our materials look, and how we incorporate those Afghan cultural references are all the result of conversations with our partners. And from our partners, we also learned that many Afghan people rely on an oral tradition. And even among people who read, many people prefer not to receive information this way. So each of our fact sheets for our Afghan health portfolio has a QR code that links to a video of somebody reading the fact sheet aloud to them. And this way we can meet the needs of people who prefer to read as well as those with oral traditions. We want anyone to be able to customize our materials, even if you don't have design software or a marketing department. And so we have drag and drop templates in Google Slides and Canva. Anyone can remove our logo, replace it with their own, swap out the photo. If you can use PowerPoint or Microsoft Word, you can use our templates. Now that was our health education collection, but we also have a toolkit with resources for organizations that are working on mental health initiatives for Afghans. So I'll give you some examples of what is in that. If someone comes to you with questions or comments about mental health and stress management and you don't know what to say, you're definitely not alone. So we have a conversation guide that helps service providers navigate those interactions while incorporating Afghan cultural references. Our friends at Settle In, which is an online community for Afghan newcomers, they did a Facebook Live event on emotional well-being for Afghans in English, Dari, and Pashto. So now you can watch these on demand, and the links are available on our website. We also have phone resources for Afghans who need to talk to somebody or get connected to those community services. We have a number of checklists and guides to assist with programming. I want to point out our service mapping guide, which is pictured in the middle here, and which we created in partnership with the International Rescue Committee. Service mapping is a process of collecting information about the supports that are available to a certain community or for a particular issue. And it really helps organizations develop a comprehensive, accessible, and sustainable referral list that can be an invaluable resource in connecting clients to a wide range of services and resources. The process of service mapping can also foster those collaborative relationships with organizations and stakeholders and help raise awareness of a client's context, including environmental stressors and access barriers. So definitely check this resource out. Speaking of referrals, our toolkit offers guidance on making referrals for Afghan clients that keeps in mind their history, their culture, worldview, and more. We also have collected on-demand and online professional development opportunities for people who want to learn more about supporting Afghan newcomers, including psychological first aids, skills for psychological recovery, and suicide prevention. Finally, our toolkit has a couple of promising practices detailed so you can learn from the programming and experiences of organizations across the country. I'm not going to go into these in detail right now because we have a wonderful set of speakers from the International Rescue Committee office in Sacramento who are going to give you a first-hand account of the great work happening in their organization. Before I turn it on to them, I'm just going to give a brief website tour so you can see where to find these resources. Under Afghans, you can go to toolkits and then mental health. And so this is the toolkit I was just talking about, where we have our health education collection, conversation guide. We have a few phone resources, these checklists and guides, promising practices, these referral information, and then professional development that you can take on your own. So with that, I will pass it over to the IRC office in Sacramento.
Hi, hello everyone. It's an honor to be here today with all of you. Malala and I, we are here to behalf of our team to talk about the really important topic that we are gathered together today, to talk about how helping Afghan newcomers feel better emotionally. With everything's going on in this world, especially with so many Afghan people who having to leave their homes, their countries, it's really important to make sure they feel supported and okay emotionally. Our programs and activities at Sacramento office are all about giving Afghan newcomers the help they need, and especially when it comes to how they are feeling inside. We have come out with different ways to do this, like talk to them the way that makes sense to them and work closely with their communities and other groups who can help. Today, we'll be sharing with you what our program does and how we are helping them and why it's so important. We've seen some really good results during the last years to serving them and support the families who's come from Afghanistan, and we are excited to share them with you today. Let's talk about how we are doing to make things better for Afghan newcomers and how we can all work together to make sure they feel supported and valued. And my amazing colleagues, Malala, will share with you our programs now.
Yeah, so in IRC Sacramento here, our mental health department, can you hear me?
Yes.
So we are delivering holistic mental health services. Right now, I will touch base on those activities that are under NRC-RIM program. These activities or services are including, but not limited to, Afghan adjustment support groups, wellness workshops, skills for psychological recovery, health and wellness outreach that me and Yasi John will give you more detail about each activity in upcoming slides. So for example, let me start with Afghan Adjustment Support Group. Afghan Adjustment Support Groups are weekly sessions that last for 8 weeks. It's for Afghans and the Afghan newcomer, and we provide a safe space for these Afghans to come together and share their experience and make bonds at the end of this program, because eight week longs, they are together like 2 hours per week. So we provide this space for them, conducting support groups. Besides that, we are utilizing a very comprehensive curriculum, which is Pathways to Wellness curriculum. This curriculum consists of different topics, for example, culture shock, refugee experience, mental health, mind-body connection. We are facilitating so many new coping and self-care techniques during our sessions, and also we are talking about short-term and long-term goals and dreams, and we are wrapping this program with creating a wellness plan and community of wellness with our clients. This curriculum that I am talking is a general curriculum for all communities, but what we have seen, we have brought some adjustment and adaptation to this curriculum that is like more cover the needs of Afghans. So right now, my colleague Yasi John will give you an overview of those adjustment and adaptation that we propose and tax to NRC-RIM that they accepted, and they make it for us.
Next slide, please. Yeah, as Malala John mentioned, we made some adjustment that we want to share some or adjustment here today with you. And we know when we started our support group with the Pathway to Wellness curriculum, we start to make the point to customize our section to host diverse culture background and respecting the different belief and tradition of participants. We also address the language barrier by adjusting our communication to ensure everyone can participate fully during our section and understanding about the knowledge that we are sharing and how we can support them. Additionally, we consider the change in the literacy and education level between the participant and providing easily understanding about material, which is needed when deliver the programs to different level of education of our participants. We combine the consideration for age and the gender and recognize each demographic unique perspective and their needs. And finally, we constantly assess to adopt the level of interest and attention of participants to develop engagement and create a supportive environment for everyone who involved to feel safe and supported. Next slide, please. Another adjustment was facilitating to creation a vision board is centered around their participants and clients' goals and dreams. Vision boards serve as powerful tools for goal setting and self-discovery. During this section, through the visual representation of individuals, we learn about the desire and they learn how they are able to focus and motivate themselves to follow their dreams and reaching to the goals. This tool has enabled us to establish a strong connection with our participants and foster encouragement in developing plans for their new lives and goals for future.
Yeah, so talking about tuition boards, I really want to thank Yasi John for adding this adjustment to the curriculum, because every time when I'm facilitating this session, I really enjoy these sessions, and I know that how much it benefits our clients and how they speak up and they talk about their goals and dreams. So it's very joyful. Can we go to the next slide, please? Yeah, so for delivering all these program and activities successfully, NRC-RIM is always supporting us behind the scene. For example, today I'm really excited to share how NRC-RIM resources have been key in preparing our mental health support sessions on education. These materials cover coping mechanisms, stress management, and effective communication strategies, which is empowering our team to provide valuable support to the participants. With comprehensive guidance and tailored support, these resources have significantly enhanced our preparation for these classes. It's not just for us as a facilitator of these programs. These resources are helping a lot our clients and the community members as well, because we are always sharing these toolkits and these resources with them, and they get benefited because they are in like different languages, especially Pashto and Dari, and it's very helpful. So hopefully my colleagues will share the link for these resources and toolkits. You can go, and if you want to like learn more about these, you can go and use those links that has been sharing by my colleagues in the chat. And also we are very grateful for the assistance as we work towards promoting mental health, wellness and emotional well-being of newcomers.
Next slide, please. Another popular activities that we are doing in Sacramento office is our wellness workshop. For the past 4 years, our wellness workshop have been one of our most popular activities that helped the IRC build a strong connection with the local partners and helping newcomers to adjust their new lives in Sacramento with addressing community needs. Our weekly workshop, which is launching every Tuesday for more than 4 years, provide valuable access to resources and covering a variety of topics that are specifically meet our clients' needs. For example, many of our newcomers may not be familiar with the water safety, unfortunately, putting themselves at the risk of accident like drowning. And again, in Sacramento, we have happened at the American River, which finished in the Afghan newcomer getting swept away in the water current and ending up with drowning, which has made many tragic and sad stories for many families. Therefore, to prevent future tragedy, we have organized water safety workshop to address this issue and provide the family with life jacket. These type of workshops give our clients information about water safety skill and tips of safety. And the life jacket provided are on another level of security for our families and who want to safely join to river during the summertime. We are grateful for our partners who go above and beyond to support the families and their needs. The generosity includes distributing the more than 200 life jackets during the last year. Also, we had a car seat workshop, and with the, again, collaboration and support of partners, we distributing the 150 car seat to the family and making the communities that we are feel safe and supported. These numbers of distribution of the materials that we are sharing is just few numbers of the materials to serve and added the new level of the educational workshops during the just last year. And finally, I want to proud to offer for the first time for Afghan women the free swimming class, and also offer swimming class for the second year for the children. And this is the space to thanks to unwavering support from our community partners, which is always be proud, and we couldn't making these things happen without their support. Next slide, please.
So probably you will notice that the programs that till now me and Yasi John was sharing, all group-based sessions. But we do not forget about those clients and those community members, Afghan newcomers, that they are not very comfortable in a group-based sessions to share, to talk, to raise their problems. This is why we, under activity of skills for psychological recovery, we provide a safer space one-on-one with the clients that they do not feel comfortable talking in a group-based session. So what we are doing, we are calling them weekly, talking to them, listening to them, and these sessions usually last for 5 to 6 weeks, depending on the situation of our clients. This SPR that we call it SPR sessions are conducted or facilitated by some professionals or certified people. Fortunately, in our team, most of us, we have been through very extensive SPR training, and we are all certified. So we can listen to our clients. When they share their problems, we have the skills to help them, educate them on very problem-solving techniques, and encourage them to the positive thinking and positive activities. So these sessions are one-on-one. We call them, we give them the chance to talk one-on-one by us. This is skills for psychological recovery. This was the last activity that I talked about. At the end, I want to utilize this moment to say that NRC-RIM project, including the Pathway to Wellness curriculum, provides crucial support for immigrants and newcomers as they adjust to their new lives. This program helps them navigate their emotions and well-being, offering essential coping skills and resilience building techniques. It's not just about surviving, it's about thriving, thanks to the power of empathy and community supports. And thank you all for being here today. So I will pass this again to Sarita.
And I'm actually going to pass it on to Jonas, our moderator, who's going to walk us through the Q&A session. While he does that, I am going to launch a poll. So if you don't mind answering just a few questions, that would really help us out a lot. If everyone can turn their video on, that would be great.
Yeah, do you guys hear me? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. So, good. I can start. So I will start by saying that I am Jonas Attilus. I am a psychiatry resident at the University of Minnesota. And I also work at the Cook Clinic, providing care for migrant and minority patients. So happy to be here, and I'm going to help facilitate the Q&A session. Okay, I will start by the first question. Someone asked, how can we help a young Afghan woman who is also here without her family, and also she's divorced per husband decision, but she's facing discrimination and rejection inside her own community? How can we help that person, navigate, those challenges?
I can jump in, but I'd love to hear from others as well. I don't have a simple answer to that. Typically, I would talk to the person about what they're feeling, what they're wanting, and really accompanying them while they're making choices. It may be that they believe or want over time to heal those relationships. It's possible. It may be that they want to move out of that community because they don't feel safe. I don't really know enough to answer that, but I think for me, it would be those kind of open questions to really hear what it is like for that person. What are their biggest concerns? What do they think would be helpful? What is in the way of getting that help? How can I support them? And then just being really guided by their own desire to solve the situation in the way that they feel is best.
I can add a little bit to that. And I agree with Beth, it just depends on what their needs are and where they are, and what kind of support they're willing to accept. But from my personal experience as an Afghan woman, and also having a similar question asked by a colleague who was in a similar situation, a woman who was kind of disowned by the family because of divorce. And she reached out to me, and similar to what Beth said, but I would also add, employment and financial stability is so important for someone who has been disowned by family members, especially in the US. So trying to connect them with organizations that can put them back into the workforce and allow them to stand on their feet and have some income so that they can then seek the help that they need, whether that's mental health support, therapy. I think that that's one great way. And then obviously there's so many resettlement organizations to help with that, IRC being one of them. So definitely connect them with IRC. And then I think the other thing that comes to mind is Afghans have put so much importance on faith and religion. And I think taking that route with someone who's struggling mentally and connecting them with local religious leaders or religious groups or circles, and to kind of find solace in faith and religion, and kind of connect them with people who can, provide that support for them and give them a different perspective and trying to cope with this difficult situation. I think those are two routes to go about them. Obviously, there are many, but those are the two important ones: financial support and community support.
Right.
And also adding to this, we have lots of clients like that. What we are doing, we try to enroll them in our SPR program. SPR is this designed for this, that one-on-one we go with them and we help them that if they are in Sacramento. So what to do, how they can feel comfortable and build those resilience that they need. So this SPR session, and also with the connection or interacting with the client, we try to connect them with other services that our office has, like financial support, housing. For this kind of a single Afghan woman, I can understand that being alone is not easy culturally. So we connect them with other Afghan single women, and they become roommates, they become friends, and they make bonds. Please introduce them to IRC. If they are in Sacramento, we are happy to help these kind of clients.
Good. Just another question. Someone asked about car seats, and that make me think about access. I would like to ask, you guys, what type of access, or what type of how can people can access, those material, because the material and the resources can be available, but that doesn't mean they take full advantage of it. So what could be, some barriers, and then how did you guys address that? And if you guys feel like there is one area you would like to improve just to help with access, what will that be?
If you let me, I'm sharing some of my experience. Sorry about my voice. This is allergy of this season. In Sacramento, we have challenge for having the car seats for our clients, but fortunately, we have UC Davis injury prevention department who always support me during the last years, and we had a workshop, car seat workshop with them, and they've been fine. We are faced of the problem for the family, especially who has a new baby, newborn, and they have a medical, they're not having the car seat, how we can give them. Then they train us, Malalijan and I, actually from our IRC Sacramento, we have CPS, Child Passenger Safety Certificate as well, to how we can verbally and in their cultural norms inform the family how they can use and prepare their family for their children's safety, and they're distributing the car seat to us. But always is challenging. But still, I have a waiting list of the people still waiting for the car seat, and it's not easy, especially we have the surge of Afghans newcomers coming to the Sacramento, and we're also always looking for the car seat. I don't have very good resources to share, but I'm sure every state, every city, they have some local resources as well. But I think depend the number of the clients who's coming and donations or something that we can also looking for.
Good. Thank you. Just, as a reminder, remember that you guys will receive, a copy of the slide and also a recording, of the meeting today. So, keep an eye on your email if you register for this meeting. I don't know if Sarita, if you have something else to add, but I would like you to take over.
No, thank you so much, Jonas, and thank you all for your questions. They're really great questions. I loved hearing about how organizations could really support, the social needs of Afghans as a way to then support mental health needs. So thank you so much to all of our speakers for giving those examples. As Jonas said, everyone's going to get a copy of the slides and the recording. So keep an eye out for an email from me. I'll also put my email in the chat. If anyone has any follow-up questions that we didn't have time to answer, go ahead and email me and I can connect you with our speakers. So with that, thank you very much, and we'll wrap it up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful day.
Yeah, take good care.
Bye.